And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we're talking about another NBA draft prospect that would fit in nicely for the Chicago Bulls. And so before we go ahead and jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure you hit that subscribe, you hit that like button, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. We are doing another NBA draft prospects video. And today we are looking at Liam McNeeley out of UConn. And so, look, he was in a mock draft that I saw here on Yahoo Sports. And then also, too, just looking at the Ringer, they have him as the 23rd best player there. And so thought that he would be an interesting fit here, an interesting person to talk about, especially since he's going to be in that range for the Chicago Bulls. And so let's talk about McNeely and why he would be a great fit here. And so I'm going to bring up his numbers, and you can see that, look, he was very solid on the offensive end. Now, his percentages are something that we definitely want to jump into. But look, first and foremost, you see that he definitely can score some points at 14.5 points a game. You see that the steals come in at 0.6 and the blocks 0.2. Rebounds, pretty solid at 6 rebounds a game. Now, here is where it gets interesting. So you look at the field goal percentage here. He's shooting 38.1% from the field, but just 31% from downtown. So 31.7%. He was a freshman that played here for UConn. And so here's the things additionally that I like about him and why I think he would be a great fit for the Chicago Bulls. And so number one, he's got the size. He's 6'7", 210. And so that size right there is immediately going to help the Chicago Bulls. He would be a wing player for us, and so not a guard, for the fans out there, they're saying another guard. So he definitely would be a wing player. Number two, the thing that McNeely does is he is a floor spacer. That is exactly what he does. So if you look at the highlights for him, this is a guy that will come off of the screens and things like that, and he will absolutely knock down the three-point shot. And so we would get a guy here that would be able to space the floor. What is the significance of that? When you're talking about Josh Giddey, Coby White, and then the other guards really just kind of diving in the lane and kind of cutting up a defense, if he's the type of guy that is currently moving and relocating off of screens and things like that, he is going to be the biggest beneficiary here of knocking down these three-point shots. And that goes into what the Chicago Bulls want to do. They want to get up. They want to maximize their possessions. They want to knock down three-point shots. McNeely does that for you. And so you would say that is what Kevin Huerter does. This is exactly what McNeely reminds you of. He's a younger version of a Kevin Huerter, the way that he's going to be able to space the floor. Now, the next thing that I love about him is just his swagger. Every time you look at his highlight clips, he is a player that definitely lets you know that he hit the three-point shot on you or hit a big shot on you. I mean, he will give you the phone signal. He's going to give you the three-point signal and things like that. So I love the fact that he plays with that swagger, because I've said this before, the Chicago Bulls, if they're going to get back to being the contender again, you need to get some players that give you an identity, and he gives you that type of identity. I think that he gives you that type of swagger, and this is something the Chicago Bulls should absolutely really sign up for. Next, as far as being a playmaker, so here's the thing with McNeely. It's not going to be anything that's flashy. You're not going to get like a Josh Giddey type of player, and really we don't need that, because Josh Giddey is a special passer. With him, he's more of a connector. And so he's going to make sure that the ball continues to keep moving. He is also going to make, I think, the correct reads a lot of times, and he's not going to necessarily force up the shots. And so there's several times where he's coming off the screen and he could have taken the three-point shot, that's what his, superpower is. But he elected to just kind of do a wraparound or something like that and hit another teammate that caught the defense napping, and they're able to hit a big shot in that way. He will give you a little dump down and stuff like that, knows how to give you a post entry. And so the passing is very basic, but you can tell that there's definitely some basketball IQ there. And so I do like that. That's something that you want, especially when you're trying to build a winner. Again, that goes into your identity. You need to have that basketball IQ on both ends of the floor, along with that swagger. So that's another reason why I like him. And so next, defensively. And so with the defense with him, it's not anything that's going to wow you. And so we're not going to get a defensive player if the Chicago Bulls were to get him, but you are going to get a guy that I think will know how to use his length. I think he is also going to be a player that maybe understands angles. I think he's a player that probably his defensive wins are going to come a lot more with him just outthinking you. And that's where the basketball IQ is going to really play a factor, because you don't have to have elite athleticism to be a terrific defender. You just have to have a want to and an understanding of what that player does that you're guarding. That's what the scouting reports are for and things like that. You need to have that type of attention to detail. And so for him to win on the defensive end, he's going to have to lock in on the attention to detail. I think he's a player that would do so. But for him to go out there and get a whole bunch of steals and stuff like that, he's not that type of player. And in fact, if you're looking at just how quick he is, I think he's a slower defender personally. I think that definitely that's something he would have to get better at, is being quicker and moving his feet laterally, but he knows how to use his length there. And I think he's a player that if he's on the back line of your zone, I think he's going to be fine there. And I also think that he's probably a player that, look, he could be okay on a chase down situation. You know, once a player comes off a pick and roll, I think his length could impact you there. As far as him playing the passing lanes, I think that that's something he would have to maybe make a super power for him defensively. But again, I think I see a lot of similarities like a Kevin Huerter. And so other players that they do compare him to is a Keegan Murray. So Keegan Murray that plays for the Sacramento Kings. I love Keegan Murray. I love his game coming out of college. And so he's a player that I think has been steady for the Spurs. He's not, or not the Spurs, excuse me, for the Kings. He's not anything that has just taken off, but he's been a serviceable piece for them in the way that he's come in, been a starter, can knock down three-point shots. He knows how to use his length and athleticism to, affect you on the defensive end. And so I like that comparison. But a lot of the comparisons that I'm seeing, and this is the Ringer and then also to Yahoo Sports, and I could see it too when you look at the highlights, is a Corey Kispert. And so, with Corey Kispert, you see him with the Wizards. I think that he's a player that I'd mentioned in one of my mock drafts, in fact. And so that, suggests a player that really he's going to be a solid role player, not necessarily saying that he's going to be a star. And that's okay. I mean, if you're looking to get a player that you can plug in and he can be, an impact at the wing position, I think that you definitely have a player like that in McNeely. He does remind you of Corey Kispert, and he also does remind you too of a Keegan Murray as well. And going back to that point with Kevin Huerter, look, one would say, okay, you already have Kevin Huerter on the roster, but remember, Kevin Huerter is on an expiring deal. And I think that the Chicago Bulls might be wise in exploring a trade for him. And if you are exploring a trade for him, then that most certainly means that you should be looking at a player like McNeely, who can do what he does, but he's much younger. And so the upside for him, I definitely a high upside with him. Like, can he be a little bit better of a mid-range shooter? I think that that's something that he absolutely is going to have to do. Most of these prospects coming out, can't speak, are going to have to get stronger. And so he's a guy that has to get stronger for sure. He's going to have to knock down the mid-range shot, and he's going to have to lock in a bit more defensively, but showing some flashes here. But let me know in the comments what you guys think here. Would you like the Chicago Bulls to select a wing player that can knock down the three-point shot? Again, he is absolutely a floor spacer for you in Liam McNeely. Do you think that he's a good fit out of UConn? Or do you think that the Bulls should go a different direction? We'll be talking a little bit more about how they could get bigger on the front line. I think that that's definitely something the Chicago Bulls need to do. But again, this is a three-point shooter. That's what the Chicago Bulls want to do, is they want to shoot three-point shots. He's a guy that would help you if you are moving off of Kevin Huerter, because remember, if you can get some more picks for Kevin Huerter, that is a plus, because you're trying to rebuild up your team. And so if you can get a replacement for him, fits your timeline, I'd say that you could go all in on that. But you guys let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. And as we always say, look, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.